Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for attending this presentation, Achieving the Map Vision. My name is Martin here from Surveyors to Education. I'll also be joined by my colleague, Richard Coe, and he'll be discussing some challenges some of our estates or some of our academies have encountered. Before we get onto the main agenda of the presentation, I just wanted to share some statements and publications that others have made regarding the importance of the condition of buildings within multi-academy trusts. So those children in poorer school environments tend to have poorer attitudes and behaviour, as well as lower attainment. School layouts can influence a child's development by as much as 25% over the course of the academic year. What we do know is that 60% of school buildings were built before 1976, and more than 1 in 6 schools in England require urgent repairs. 1 in 20 teachers who left their job have also cited poor building conditions. So the impact of the condition of buildings obviously is very important, and S2E are very passionate as chartered building surveyors about improving this. So what do we do? Just a very, very quick overview. Chartered building surveyors that only work in the academy sector, and we specialise in formulating estate strategies to support and help fund the vision of multi-academy trusts. We've delivered over 1,500 projects to date, equating to almost £500 million of construction work. So just reviewing the agenda, we're going to focus on 3 areas here: establishing strong foundations and understanding the importance and quality of those essentials, looking at capital funding and how that has evolved over the last decade, what is out there at the moment, what has been and gone, where's it likely to go, and then my colleague Richard Coe will talk about 3 estate funding challenges that have been encountered by some of our multi-academy trusts. So establishing strong foundations, what does that mean? Well, these are the basics in our opinion, and it's essential that we get these basics right to understand and develop a vision for the multi-academy trust. We know the importance of condition surveys, how that will then inform the backlog maintenance and plan maintenance regime that we have in place over the course of the next, say, 5 to 10 years. And the quality of that information and how it's presented obviously is very important. And some of the other bricks that we've got here are also very important to develop these strong foundations. I'm going to focus now on the quality of some of these foundation building blocks that we've got here. And the one I'm focusing on is 2D CAD floor plans, because a 2D CAD floor plan has many benefits for a multi-academy trust, as I'm sure a lot of you will know. It will not only map out the school area and show sizes, it will also then link in with whether you've got surplus spaces for certain things or deficit spaces in accordance with building bulletin guidelines. It shouldn't stop there. It also helps you obviously to understand how you can adapt your buildings moving forward, but it shouldn't stop there. It shouldn't be a 2D piece of software that just offers that in itself. There should be more to it than that, and that's why we're introducing now an understanding of how you can link in 3D modelling to CAD floor plans. So this video here shows a 2D CAD floor plan that is very simply converted into a 3D model. And what this enables you to do, one of the biggest benefits, is for you to work remotely when you are discussing various condition elements or even the sizes of certain rooms where a multi-academy trust has got a number of different schools in various localities. So what this enables you to do is to use the 2D CAD floor plan, convert it into 3D imaging using photographs. You can link in various condition elements. You can then remotely talk to site managers or business managers about a potential condition issue within one of the rooms, or whether you need to adapt certain rooms. So the remote working or remote linking in with this kind of software, we feel as though is very important when you are looking at purchasing 2D CAD floor plans for your multi-academy trust. So that's just one example of how you need to ensure, to establish strong foundations, you need to get the quality of the offer correct. These kind of things, for example, are the same price as 2D CAD floor plans generally. And just to give you an idea of the cost, depending on the size of the facility, obviously, but you know, quite good prices there for something that not only gives you a 2D CAD floor plan, but enables you to have the 3D modeling option as well. And using it as a remote communication tool can be fantastic, particularly in this day and age now, where we can speed up a lot of communication by not necessarily traveling to the site that we're talking about. We can react and talk remotely with our colleagues, business managers, site managers, whatever that may be. The model that you've seen actually also was pupil-led. So the school wanted to bring in pupils to lead this survey, because it's quite a basic sort of piece of software that we're using here. And bringing in pupils to actually develop their own 3D model of their school is very rewarding for us as well. What this does, you know, we know that it does generate a very good understanding, visual understanding of where your surplus and deficit spaces are for your multi-academy trust and each individual academy. So there's a lot of strategic benefits to it, a lot of other interactive features that I'm not going to go through now, but it just shows you the quality and the importance of that to establish those strong foundations. So once we've got all these foundations correct and right, we've got the right quality of information, it's obviously turns to how we fund certain developments and certain projects moving forward. Just a breakout slide really here, just to understand the capital funding and how that's evolved over the last decade in particular, right back from the Building Schools for the Future programme, really, where, you know, in 2010 it was coming to the end of the programme. It was there initially to replace all or half of all secondary schools nationally, as well as a primary capital programme to refurbish primary schools. It was a good initiative. It didn't last for the recession reasons, but what that did then, the demise of that led to looking at existing stock that we had. And that's where we developed the Academy's Capital Maintenance Fund, which is now the Condition Improvement Fund, and leading on to the school condition allocation. The biggest problem that happened when we were under local authority control was that a lot of local authorities didn't want to spend money on their buildings under the BSF program, because they knew in 2 years' time they were getting a brand new building. So when the CIF and the SCA was starting to be established, there was a whole raft of backlog maintenance, as I'm sure you're rightly aware, and still working through now. So even after 10 years, we still haven't got through all this backlog maintenance, which is what we're assisting our multi-academy trusts with now. Some of the underfunding streams that are been and gone and are on hold and things like that, the Grammar School Expansions Fund. In 2019, there was 50 million made available from the government to expand grammar schools, focusing really on getting disadvantaged pupils into grammar schools. Only 16 million in 2019 was awarded out of that 50 million. A bit of a shock. But the reason why is these grammar schools could not develop schemes sufficiently to link in disadvantaged pupils. So at the moment, that scheme certainly is on hold. The ones in blue that you see here, we're going to actually talk about these three options by my colleague Richard Coe, and some of the shared experiences that we've had with some of our multi-academy trusts. Other ones that have been around for a while, and will continue, basic need and Section 106 funding that are managed directly by the local authority. 106 is one that my colleague will talk on in a bit more detail. And the Priority Schools Building Programme, which is looking at replacement of new blocks, that is I think it's in wave 3 at the moment, or just coming up to it, which is a cycle of a 5-year rebuilding block programme moving forward. So just to give you an idea of some of the capital funding that has been around or is around at the moment, some has been and gone, as I said, but it's constantly evolving. And for the next 10 years, we'll have a whole raft of other funding streams that come out, whether that's through government initiatives or alternative methods of funding. What I'm going to do now is just pass you on to my colleague, Richard Coe, who's going to talk about some challenges that we've faced with our multi-academy trust and how we've helped come up with solutions to assist them with funding this initiative.
Hello everyone, I hope you're finding the expo useful. Yeah, I've got 3 challenges that I'd like to talk to you about today. S2E have followed the Academy's process right from its inception, and the 3 challenges I'm going to come on to are relatively new and are things that are affecting our clients at the moment. So the first challenge, taking on new academies and rebrokering. This is particularly relevant for successful MATs who are encouraged by their Regional Schools Commissioner to take on new or failing academies or trusts. These academies may require significant maintenance and capital investment to bring buildings up to standard. This obviously then puts a lot of pressure on the multi-academy trust, increasing your liability and potential strain on existing resources and existing SCA funding. Solutions to this, well, firstly, you need to understand fully what you're taking on. S2E help academies understand the potential condition issues and due diligence liabilities these additional buildings will place on the MAT team, looking at not just condition, but also gap analysis information such as your statutory compliance with asbestos management, fire risk assessments, and other surveys. The utilisation of space on the new buildings you're taking on is also equally important, reviewing whether the sites have a deficit in space in perhaps a particular subject or some ancillary spaces, or simply looking at how the existing provision can be adjusted to suit a new way of teaching or something new that the trust want to implement. These are all things that S2E can offer your trust. An example might be we have a client who like to have school lunches in a very different way, in a more homely environment. So they require much bigger dining halls in their school. So that's something that they've used the rebrokering to say, yeah, we'll add this school to our trust, but we must have this dining space to enable us to have the ethos of the school that we want. We've got another one that's was an all boys school. They're introducing girls into this school, so there's a lot of challenges there, and that was simply looking at things like adding toilets and changing rooms to cope with the different sexes. So another example, we've got a block replacement at the moment. A trust wants to take on a site, and the condition of one of the buildings was such that there was just no cost-effective way of upgrading that building. So the rebrokering deal there was, yeah, we'll take on this site on the basis that building is demolished and rebuilt to our specification. So these are all things that S2E could assist your trust in maximising how much money you can receive via the rebrokering. So as I've said, the funding of this, we can help with the negotiation with the DfE complex projects team, maximise the capital funding to obtain to address these issues or improve the condition of the buildings. And typical projects, obviously with academies, tends to be a lot of roofing works that are needed to be done, block replacements, fire alarms. We've got a safeguarding job going on at the moment. So yeah, anything to do with the estate, more than happy to assist with. Challenge 2 is, I've got it here, is the Demographic Growth Fund. So yeah, looking at Section 106 capital funding, sometimes referred to as the Community Infrastructure Levy or CIL funding. Challenge here, new housing developments naturally increase pupil numbers. It is the local authority's statutory duty to ensure sufficient pupil places resulting from this demographic growth. As a rough guide, 1,000 houses equals one new form of entry. So solutions, what is planned locally? Well, understanding both what developments are due to take place and who your competition may be for Section 106 funding are crucially important. Reviewing if your school could grow in advance of these developments and having outlined drawings, plans, ideas of how the school can adapt to take on these additional pupils will push you to the front of the queue and make you best placed to maximise how much money you can potentially gain from your local authority. An example of this we have at the moment is a school in Leicestershire. They have been asked to take on more pupils following some housing development. They've requested some money for additional classroom space. We've gone into the school and actually said, well, perhaps if you converted your existing dining halls to classrooms, that would give you the classroom space. Converted your existing gymnasium into your dining hall, that would give you the dining space that you've just lost to classrooms. We could then use all the money from Section 106 to build you a Sport England compliant sports hall. So not only are we solving the issue and giving the classroom space, but we're also looking at the wider estate and coming up with a more estate rounded strategy. Interestingly, with this scheme, the local authority is so impressed, they actually awarded the school more money than they asked for. So we were awarded an extra £150,000 on top of the £1 million that was requested. So it's certainly worth, who shouts loudest, perhaps, gets the funding. So funding underspent due to complexities at local authority level, perhaps with staffing pressures, reduced staff in the local authorities just perhaps don't have the capacity to deal with so much development that's going on at the moment. Also finding schools willing to do this or having the plans ready to be able to accept the additional pupils has been a challenge. Some local authorities are sitting on huge contributions from developers, and we have known that some local authorities have given this development funding back to the developers. So it's certainly worth challenging your local authority to say that we've got this idea. Yes, we can take on some additional pupils. Can you help us? So to put this into context, one form of entry at around £15,000 a pupil, you're looking at a grant there of 450,000. But as I've said before, we have got a client at the moment that has received more money than they asked for. So it's certainly worth asking the question. Operating leases is another challenge. So these are becoming more commonplace within the sector. So lots of schools have hired facilities, costing year on year with no strategy for the provision to be made permanent, which is obviously not a good position to be in. Another challenge is academies requiring additional facilities or replacing poor condition facilities that they have currently, such as classrooms or sports halls or whatever that may be. The main roadblock there is having the funding to complete such large projects. So the solution to this is using top-up operating leases in addition to school reserves to increase the overall pot and spread out how the repayments are made. So an operating lease might be over 7 years. So then you've got stage payments of 7 years so the trust can save to pay off the lease. Obviously, depending on the type of building you're going for, if it's a teaching space, then you're gaining extra revenue from the pupils. But if it's a sports hall or a facility that can be let to the community, there's obviously a revenue stream there, which in some cases can be funneled straight into the operating lease, and the lettings can pay off the operating lease. And it's all quite a nice, neat circle. So The image at the top of the screen there is a school in Birmingham. They were paying over £200,000 a year in hire costs for, I think it was 8 buildings. Horrible temporary structures. So the brief there was to come up with an operating lease to replace those with these structures. So we're actually saving them money. The operating lease is less than they were paying in hire costs, and is giving them a permanent position. So it's certainly a win for that client. Second example there is a sports hall. So the key requirement of an operating lease is theoretically the building has to be relocatable. So the classroom buildings are a modular structure. The sports hall can be made relocatable by how the building is put together. So in that image, you can see a bulky steel frame, and in theory, that sports hall could be picked up and moved to another site. So therefore, that building is eligible for an operating lease. I think that's it on that slide. No, one more thing. Obviously, buildings in poor condition is another factor. So if you're having to spend an awful lot of money maintaining and upgrading buildings, it may be more cost effective to look at a top-up operating lease scenario to replace that building with new, rather than continued use of school condition allocation to refurbish and upgrade certain elements of it. So S2E are sector specialists. We only work in the education sector, and like I said earlier, we've followed this right from the inception of the academy structure. So we've obtained £250 million of CIF funding, prioritised £32 million of SCA funding last year, completed 1,500 capital projects, of which we've introduced 220 new classrooms into the country. So Section 106, further 7 million from that fund, and £8 million through the complex projects team. So any scenarios that you'd like to throw at us, we're more than happy to have a chat about those. Like to think we've seen just about everything you can throw at us by now, but we're more than happy to look at a different challenge if you've got one. Thanks for listening. Please do come and talk to us. We're in the Trade Expo Estate and Facilities Zone. If you're not available today, then feel free to grab our details off the stand and speak to us later in the week. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Martin.
Cheers.
Thank you.